The forest had always been quiet. For years, the alien girl named Kelari had guarded it like her own blood. Her white fox-like ears twitched with every sound, and her glowing red eyes missed nothing. She wore dark armor made from old battle, scraps polished and strong. Her sword, longer than her arm, had not tasted blood in seasons. She liked it that way, but today, something changed. A strange sound echoed through the trees. Not a beast, not a hunter, it was screaming metal, fire. The sky cracked open as something huge tore through the clouds above. A burning object, twisted down and smashed into the far hills. Birds flew in panic. Trees caught flame. Kelari stood frozen for a moment, heart racing. No one from her world had flying machines anymore. Their war had ended long ago. But that thing, it was not from her planet. It was something else. Without wasting a second, she dashed toward the crash. The path burned under her feet. Smoke made her cough, but she pushed forward, dodging flames and fallen branches. She reached the crash site in minutes. Her sword was ready in her hand. And there he was. A strange being lay half outside the broken craft. Not animal, not machine, not one of hers. Skin smooth and pale, 2 legs, 2 arms. No claws, his face was cut, his clothes burned. And yet his chest moved. He was alive. Kelari pointed her sword at him. "What are you?" She whispered. The human man groaned and opened his eyes slowly. They were blue like frozen rivers. His lips moved, trying to form words she could not understand. But his pain was clear. He was weak, helpless, and something deep in her chest pulled. She should have walked away. She should have let nature finish him. But she didn't. Kelari dropped to her knees, sheathing her sword. She tore part of her cloak and pressed it against his bleeding side. His body flinched, but he didn't. "Stop her." His eyes locked onto hers, confused, scared, but not angry. Not hateful. "Don't move," she whispered, though she knew he couldn't understand. "I'll protect you now." She carried him through the woods, her arms trembling from his weight. Her small hut was far, hidden behind thick trees and mossy stones. As she moved, she heard the sounds again, but different this time. Not from the crash. Not fire. Ships. More ships. They were not his friends. Kelari ducked behind trees, her ears picking up angry voices in a strange language. Metallic soldiers' drones maybe searched the forest. Machines sniffed for heat, for blood. They didn't care about life. They wanted something or someone. Her breath caught. They were hunting the human. She didn't know why. But now, he was hers. By the time she reached her home, the man had passed out. His wound was bad. Blood soaked her arms. She laid him gently on a bed of woven vines and began cleaning the injury. She used old healing dust, burned herbs, whispered words from forgotten prayers. "Don't die," she said softly. "You fell into my world. You're my responsibility now." The fire outside dimmed. The forest, once silent, was now a war zone. Kelari stepped outside, sword in hand, eyes burning with rage. Her ears twitched toward the faint sounds of approaching scouts. She had no idea who the human was. No idea why. Others wanted him dead, but she had made a decision. She would fight for him. And if they tried to take him, whoever they were, she would kill every last one of them. Because deep down, something told her he didn't fall by accident. He was meant to land in her world. And she was meant to protect him. The wind carried a strange smell, metal, smoke, and something rotten. Kelari stood silently among the trees, eyes glowing softly in the dusk. Her long white hair flowed behind her, and her sharp ears twitched at every step on the leaves. She knew they were close. The machines had arrived. She watched as one of them moved through the trees. It was tall, heavy, and walked with thick steel legs. It had one red eye in the middle of its head, spinning and scanning. A small drone buzzed above it like a fly, flashing a light across the forest. Kalari crouched low. They were not from her planet. That much was clear. These things didn't belong to her people. They didn't care about the trees, the animals, or the silence. They were searching, cold, empty. They didn't speak. Only scanned and killed. She thought of the human boy lying. Weak inside her hut, his breathing had slowed. His wound was deep. He needed rest, but these things would not wait. Kalari moved like a shadow, circling behind the nearest scout. Her sword was still clean, untouched by blood in over a year. She hadn't wanted to fight again. She was tired of war, but this was different. With one fast motion, she jumped from the tree and sliced through the machine's neck. Sparks burst out. The red eye went black. The body dropped, heavy, and hit the ground with a crash. Silence returned for 1 second. Then everything changed. The drone spun around and screamed in a high-pitched alarm. Red lights flared in the trees. More machines came crashing through the undergrowth, stomping, scanning. Weapons locking onto her. Kalari ran. She dashed through the forest, taking sharp turns, jumping over rocks, sliding under thick roots. She had mapped every inch of this land with her feet. They couldn't catch her, not here. One machine fired. A beam of white light sliced the bark of a tree, missing her by inches. Another shot. She threw herself into a stream and rolled through the mud, then vanished behind a thick wall of moss-covered rocks. Her chest rose and fell with fast breaths, but her hand still gripped the sword tight. "I warned you," she whispered. She stood, eyes glowing redder now. She called on the spirits of her ancestors. Her armor glowed faintly. Not magic, but memory. Her people had once ruled the forests. Her blood still held that fire. The enemy came in 2 lines now. More careful, smarter. But not smart enough. Kalari used the trees to her advantage. She leaped from one branch to another and dropped down right in the middle of the line. Her sword moved like wind. One head flew off. Another machine fell with a burning hole in its chest. They tried to shoot. Too slow. She screamed a wild, primal sound. Her tail swirled behind her, distracting them for 1 second. That was all she needed. 1, 2, 3 more fell. But one machine got lucky. A shot grazed her shoulder. She winced, rolled back, and landed near the fallen scout. Smoke rose from her arm. Blood trickled down. Not deep, but it burned. Still, she stood tall. They weren't done. She wasn't either. More footsteps came from the west. She counted 5, maybe 6 more scouts. If they reached her hut, the human would die. He couldn't even lift his head. No. She whispered, "He's mine to protect." She ran back toward her home. When she reached it, the small hut was dark, quiet. The fire inside had burned low. The boy was still breathing, but barely. Kalari stood over him. She reached down and held his hand for the first time. "I don't know your name," she said, "but if you hear me, stay alive." Outside, more red lights flashed through the trees. Kalari stepped out again. She wiped the blood from her mouth, gritted her teeth, and stood in front of the door. Anyone who wanted to hurt the boy would have to get through her first, and no one would survive that. Kalari stood still in front of her hut. Her sword tip touched the mossy ground, her body aching from the last fight. Blood dried on her shoulder, but her mind stayed sharp. She listened. The machines had stopped moving. That silence wasn't peace, it was strategy. A low hum began to rise from the trees ahead. Red light shimmered again, but this time slower, like it was scanning, waiting. Then came the sound that made her ears flick. A voice. It wasn't machine-like. It was too soft, smooth, almost human. "Kalari of Velnari Forest, lay down your weapon. You are not the target." Her heart froze. No outsider should know her name. She had buried her past long ago, along with her tribe. Her family, her war. For years, she had lived alone, protecting the forgotten forest. No one, not even her own kind, had spoken her name in ages, but this voice knew it. How do you know that name? She shouted. There was a pause. The forest remained still. Then, the voice replied, "We read your records, from the old wars. You are not our concern. The human inside your shelter, he carries something. We need it." She stepped forward slowly. "You want him?" "Yes, he's injured. He can't even walk. That is unfortunate. He still must be taken." Kalari gripped her sword. "And if I say no?" The red lights blinked again. "Then you die with him." She didn't hesitate. "Then I die with him." The lights dimmed. For a moment, then footsteps resumed, slow and heavy. More machines stepped into view, bigger than the last group. Their armor was darker, their weapons glowing blue instead of red. These weren't scouts, they were hunters. Kalari backed toward the door of her hut, but not in fear. She was preparing. Inside, the human stirred. She glanced at him. His eyes fluttered open. He tried to speak. Where?" She knelt beside him quickly. "You're safe. But I need you to trust me. Whatever they want from you. They can't have it." He blinked. Then he reached for his jacket pocket, weakly pointing to it. Kalari reached in carefully. She pulled out a small glowing cube. It pulsed faint blue light with every beat, like a heart. Strange markings covered the sides. Not her language. Not one she had ever seen. "Is this what they're after?" she whispered. He nodded faintly. Kalari looked at the cube again. It didn't look like a weapon. It didn't hum with danger. But it was clearly important. She tied it inside her belt pouch and turned back toward the door. Outside, the air was thick. The hunters were forming a wide circle around her home. They didn't move fast. They didn't need to. They thought they had her trapped. Kalari semi-RKED. Fools. She raised 2 fingers to her lips and whistled. Sharply. The trees answered. Thick roots burst from the ground, tripping the first hunter. Branches twisted like snakes, wrapping around another. From the trees above, glowing insect-like creatures flew down, stinging the exposed wires in the machines. Armor. This was her forest. And it listened to her. Kalari leapt into the air and came down hard, slicing through the head of the closest hunter. Blue sparks flew. Another machine fired at her, but missed as vines wrapped around its legs and dragged it into a deep pit. She fought like fire. Fast. Angry. Unstoppable. And yet, there were too many. One hunter managed to land a shot. A blast hit the side of her hut, blowing a hole in the wall. She heard the human cry out. She turned and screamed, "Nitrogen monoxide!" The forest roared with her. A thick tree slammed sideways into the hunter, smashing it into pieces. Kalari ran back inside. The boy had rolled off the bed, trying to crawl away from the blast. Dust covered his face, and part of the roof had collapsed. She lifted him into her arms again. "We have to move," she said. "They won't stop." He groaned weakly, eyes wide with fear. She looked down at the cube still glowing in her pouch, whatever this was. It had started a war. And now she was in the middle of it. But she didn't care, because when she looked into the boy's eyes again, tired, scared, but trusting, something shifted in her chest. He was no longer a stranger. He was hers to protect. She would burn the stars if she had to. Kalari ran through the forest with the human in her arms, his weight pressing against her wounded shoulder. The fire behind them glowed bright, but she didn't look back. Her legs moved fast, guided by memory and instinct. She knew secret paths no machines could follow. The boy groaned softly. He was burning with fever now. His skin felt too hot, his breath shallow. She needed to stop soon, but not yet. They were still too close. She reached a rocky outcrop hidden behind thick roots. A hollow cave sat beneath it, cool and dry. She had used it long ago to hide from sky raiders. Now it would protect him. Kalari gently laid the human on a bed of leaves and sat beside him. The cube at her waist glowed stronger now, like it knew something had changed. She stared at it. "What are you?" she whispered. Her fingers brushed across the symbols again. They were sharp, like scratches, but too perfect to be random. "The Dafendu." Cube pulsed in response, and a small blue light shined from its center. Then, it spoke. A soft voice echoed inside the cave, calm, feminine, but cold. Genetic match confirmed. Project Rebirth initialized. Kalari froze. The cube floated out of her hands and projected a glowing image in the air. It showed a star map with blinking red dots across different planets. One of the dots pulsed harder than the others. Kalari didn't recognize the system, but she saw Earth's name flash once. Then the image changed. It showed the human boy, younger, standing in a clean white room. Scientists in uniforms moved around him. Some of them were smiling. Others looked afraid. One sentence appeared in the air beside him. "The last compatible vessel." Kalari's stomach dropped. She looked at the boy. "What have they done to you?" His eyes opened halfway. He saw the light and tried to speak. "Did it show you?" She nodded. "They experimented on you. You carry something." He coughed weakly. "It's not a weapon, it's a cure." Kalari blinked. "Cure?" "They put it in me. Something to fix the DNA collapse in their people, but I escaped. I didn't want to be used." He was barely whispering now. "They sent machines to find me. They'll never stop." Kalari sat back, her heart pounding. The cube didn't hold data, it held life. It was storing pieces of genetic code. Something rare, valuable, maybe something that could rebuild dying empires or revive broken races. That's why they wanted him. He wasn't a soldier. He was a key, but she didn't care about science or empires or war. She cared that he had cried out in pain. She cared that he had looked at her not like a weapon, but like a person. She had killed for him. Already, she would kill again. She stood and walked to the mouth of the cave. The trees whispered to her. The forest was uneasy. Drones were close again. She raised her sword. They had found her once. They would find her again, but this time, she would go to them. She turned to the boy. "Rest. I will return." He tried to grab her hand. "Don't go." She knelt beside him and smiled gently. "They're hunting you. If I don't stop them now, they'll keep hunting until you're dead." He closed his eyes, too weak to argue. Kalari pulled her hood over her white hair. She took a deep breath and stepped into the fading light. Her sword sang. Her armor tightened. The cube's voice echoed in her mind. Project Rebirth must survive. She didn't know what that meant, but she knew one thing. If the entire galaxy wanted that boy dead, they would have to face her first. And no force in the stars was ready for that. Kalari moved like smoke between the trees. Her sword was silent, and her eyes burned red in the dark. The machines didn't see her coming, not until it was too late. She struck fast and vanished faster. One by one, she took out their scouts. Always moving, never stopping. But deep inside, something felt wrong. The drones were slowing down. Their movements were more careful, as if they were expecting her. She crouched on a high branch, watching a group of 6 hunters gather near an old ruin. They weren't searching. They were guarding. She narrowed her eyes. A tall machine stepped forward. Unlike the others, this one had a face. Not metal, but a screen shaped like a mask. It was black, smooth, and almost too human. Then it spoke, but not in a machine voice. It spoke in her language. Kalari. I told them you wouldn't leave the boy. Her blood froze. That voice. She dropped from the tree and landed in the clearing. Show me your face, she said coldly. The screen flickered. Then it changed. A man's face appeared pale, with short silver hair and sharp green eyes. Her hand shook. "Varek," she whispered. He smiled. "You remember." She raised her sword. "You died in the last war. I watched you burn. You watched what they wanted you to see," he said. "But I lived, and I learned something. The war meant nothing. Our people fought over trees and honor. While the galaxy evolved, you joined them? I became something better." Kelari stepped closer, furious. "You sold your soul to machines." He didn't flinch. "And you're still playing Forest Guardian? Wake up. That human boy, he holds the cure to save empires. Entire species. Could rise again with what's inside him. But you want to keep him like a pet?" She growled. "He's not a pet. He's a person." Varek tilted his head. "And when he dies from infection? When his body fails? Because it will. That data inside him is eating him alive. He needs extraction. It's the only way to save what's left." Kelari's grip tightened. "You mean kill him and take what you want?" Varek nodded once. "Better one death than the death of millions." She shook her head. "He didn't choose this. He didn't ask for any of it, and he trusted me. I won't break that." "You always were a fool for lost causes," Varek said. "But it's not your decision anymore." He raised one hand. The 6 hunters stepped forward, weapons locking onto her. Kelari didn't wait. She charged, blade spinning through the first machine. Sparks flew. The others fired too slow. She leaped, twisted, landed behind them, and struck again. 2 fell in pieces. The third managed to punch her side hard enough to knock her into a tree. She gasped. Pain shot through her ribs, but she stood. "You'll have to kill me first," she said, spitting blood. Varek didn't move. His face on the screen looked sad. "You were better than this, Kelari. You had the mind of a queen. And you had a heart," she whispered. "But they took it." He stepped forward. "Last chance. Give me the cube. Let the boy die with purpose." Kelari lifted her sword with shaking hands. "No." Then the ground beneath her exploded. A drone had dropped from above, throwing her through the air. She hit the dirt hard and didn't move. Her vision blurred. Varek walked over her slowly. She felt his shadow. "You could have ruled, Kelari," he said softly. "Now you'll be remembered as a forest ghost." Her hand searched for her blade, but it was gone. She heard footsteps. Weapons charging, then a roar. Not from the trees, from the cave. Kelari blinked as a figure stumbled into the clearing, thin, broken, and bleeding. The human. He stood with a rock in his hand, barely able to breathe. But his eyes were burning with defiance. "Get away from her," he growled. Kelari's heart jumped. Varek turned, surprised. "You shouldn't be standing." The human threw the rock. It hit Varek's mask, just enough to make him flinch. That was all Kelari needed. She rolled, grabbed a fallen blade from the ground, and drove it into the side of the nearest machine. It sparked wildly and fell over. She stood again, side by side with the human. He leaned against her. Barely standing, she held him close, and together they faced what came next. Kelari held the human close, his blood staining her armor. His legs shook under him, but he didn't fall. She saw pain in his eyes, but also something more, something fierce. He had stood up for her, against everything. Even while dying. Behind them, Varek's mask flickered with static. The rock had left a crack in the screen. "You should be dead," he said. Watching the human. The boy coughed. "So should you." Kelari didn't waste more words. She pulled the human back toward the forest, her blade raised. She expected more machines to follow, but none did. The hunters were down. Varek was hurt. And for now, the path was open. They ran or limped through the trees. Kelari led them to an old hollow near the cliffs, deep enough to hide, shallow enough to breathe. She lit a fire and laid the boy down gently. He was pale, his breath uneven. You shouldn't have moved, she said softly. I heard you scream, he whispered. She looked away, her chest tight. I've seen armies fall without blinking, she said. But when I thought you were gone, he smiled faintly. You care, she nodded once. I shouldn't. You're not my kind. Not my war, but I do. The cube on her belt suddenly pulsed again. Brighter, stronger. She pulled it out, and this time it hovered higher, spinning faster. A soft voice echoed again, calmer, warmer. Final sequence unlocked. Neural link in progress. Kalari raised a brow. What is it doing? The human's eyes widened weakly. It's connecting. To what? Us. Before she could stop it, a beam of light touched both of their foreheads. Kalari gasped as her mind filled with visions, not memories, but pieces. Pieces of him, his childhood, his pain, needles, cold rooms, loneliness, escaping, hiding. Then suddenly, her own memories, her lost village, the final battle, her brother dying in her arms flashed inside his mind. It was a flood of emotions. Grief, rage, hope that the cube didn't just store data. It created connection. And now, they were linked. The beam faded. The cube hovered silently, as if satisfied. Kalari backed away slowly. What did it do to us? The human touched his chest. It completed the bond. You're my neural anchor now. You keep the code stable. Her jaw tightened. You mean if I die, you die? He nodded. And the cure dies with me. Kalari looked away, heart pounding. The galaxy would kill him to get that code. Now it would kill her too. But she didn't feel regret. In a strange way. She felt more alive than ever. Suddenly, her ears twitched. Footsteps again. But this time, lighter, softer, not machines. Kalari drew her blade. Standing in front of him, figures stepped out from the shadows, 3 cloaked aliens. Not hunters, not machines, old robes. Marked by the Velnari crest. Her people. Kalari gasped. One of them removed her hood. A woman, gray-haired, stern-eyed. Kalari, she said. We feared you were dead. I was, Kalari said. Until he fell into my world. The elder nodded, eyeing the human. The cube's final sequence has begun. That means it chose you as guardian. Kalari stepped protectively in front of him. If you came to take him, no, the elder interrupted. We came to help you escape. Kalari hesitated. Why? Because if Vera controls the cure, he'll sell it to the highest bidder. The stars will burn. You are the only one who hasn't asked for power. That's why the bond chose you. Kalari looked down at the boy. She thought about all she had lost. And all she could still protect. Then she nodded. Then help me save him. The elder turned to the others. Prepare the Skyflyer. Kalari helped the boy to his feet again, his body leaning into hers. Where are we going? He asked weakly. She looked up at the stars. To the one place Varric fears. He blinked. Where's that? She smiled. Home. The Skyflyer rose quietly above the forest, leaving the smoke and war behind. Kalari sat beside the human boy, his head resting on her shoulder, his body still weak but alive. The bond between them pulsed softly, a steady glow from the cube. Tied to her belt, she stared out the window as they passed over rivers, cliffs, and ruins of the old Velnari cities. He followed her eyes and whispered, Is that where you're taking me? She nodded. It's where I was born. It's where the truth lives now. The elder sat across from them, silent, watching the cube's light. The temple's core still holds the last memory seed of our ancestors. It may hold the key to separating his DNA from the code, without killing him. Kalari didn't speak. She was thinking about Varric. He wouldn't stop. He couldn't, and she knew he was coming. The sky darkened as they reached the ruins of the high temple. Wind swept through the broken marble pillars and moss-covered stairs. Kalari helped. the boy down, guiding him gently toward the glowing circle at the center. The cube rose from her pouch, hovering into the air on its own. It pulsed faster now. The elder placed her hand on an old console, activating seed memory. Light exploded from the ground. A sphere of images surrounded them, history, symbols, faces long forgotten. The Velmeri had once been great scientists and protectors. The cube had been created in desperation. During their final years. It was never meant to be used as a weapon. It was meant to save the future. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the valley. Kalari's ears snapped back. He's here. Varek's ships descended from the clouds, black and sharp, metal wings like knives. Dozens of hunters dropped down, forming a line behind him. His mask was repaired. His eyes cold. He stepped forward alone. Step away from the boy, he said. Kalari drew her sword. No, you can't protect him forever. I don't need forever, she said. Just long enough. Varek lifted a hand and the machines charged. Kalari ran forward. She moved like fire again, spinning, striking, never hesitating. One hunter fell, then another, but there were too many. Her side bled. Her legs shook, still she fought. Still. She stood. Behind her. The cube sent beams of light into the ground. The temple answered. A wave of soft blue energy wrapped around the human boy. He gasped as his body lifted from the ground, suspended in air. Kalari saw it, his skin glowing, his veins filled with starlight. The code was separating. Varek saw it too. He screamed, charging forward. Kalari met him. Their blades clashed. Varek was stronger now, faster. But Kalari had something he didn't. She had purpose. She fought not for power, but for someone who had looked at her with kindness, who had whispered thank you when no one else had ever dared. Varek struck her shoulder. She cried out but didn't fall. She struck his chest. His mask cracked again. They clashed one final time, and Kalari drove her blade through his side. He froze. His mask flickered. You would have made a great queen. I already am, she whispered. She pulled the blade free. Varek fell. Behind her, the light dimmed. The boy dropped gently to the ground. Kalari turned, breath shaking. He opened his eyes clear. Calm. The cube floated down and landed beside him. Quiet now. The elder stepped forward. The code has been extracted. He's free. Kalari dropped to her knees beside him. You're safe now. He reached for her hand. You saved me. She smiled. You saved me first. I just finished the job. The wind blew through the broken temple. The sky was quiet again, and in that silence, something new began. Not war. Not running, but peace. He had crashed into her world like a falling star. Now, she would never let him go, and if anyone ever tried to take him again, they would face the storm she had become.